What's up? How you doing? Here we are, beautiful night tonight. Very quiet, and I'm out here relaxing a little bit. Have a product here we're gonna try. Savoia. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If not, you pronounce it for yourself. Savoia. Americano Rosso. So it's a product of Italy. I don't know what, it's like a wine or something, but and the reason I got it is because it looks appealing, looks refreshing. So I had it in the fridge. Should be nice and cold by now. We're gonna open it up. Oh, some of these things are tough to open. I don't know, they make them really tough. Criminals have no problem. Feel buzzing. All right, let's open this up here. Very pleasant. Very nice. So, put a little bit, it looks a little bit syrupy, so I'm expecting this to be a bit sweet, like a dessert wine type thing. So, the price was $24.99 for this. Not that bad. Never had it before, first time. Drink in moderation. Don't drink and drive. Cheers. It's pretty good. Refreshing, but I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's a bit of a slight bitter flavor, very slight. It's almost like I'm imagining a bitter flavor, but it's like sweet. Yeah, there's something in there. It's a little bit bitter, but it's really good flavor. I'm sure the more you have, the better it gets. I'm home today. I'm home tonight. I'm not going anywhere. But I'm also not going to drink the whole bottle. Although, I don't think it has much horsepower. I don't know what the alcohol content is on this. I don't know. I don't see it. 1 second. Imported by ABV Selection, Miami Beach, Florida. It's got to be somewhere here, right? Maybe I need a magnifying glass. Little print. Oh yeah, here it is. 18.6% alcohol. So not quite hard liquor, but a little bit stronger than wine. Wine's about 12 to 14. So this one is 18.6. But like I said, we're not gonna. I think I probably could finish that and not notice a thing, but I may notice it, and then I can't find my room, then I have to sleep out here. Yeah, want to say like, I'm thinking if I ever tasted aftershave, it would be kind of like that. But it's good. It's good. I like it. Now, so I have a book here. It's a little shiny right there. You see that? Clarence the TV dog. So, when my kids were little, I would put them up, to bed, and then I would read them from this book every night until they would go to sleep. I would read, I don't know, 10 pages. I said pagers. I would read 10 pages, right? And then I would notice them drifting. They would go to sleep, and then the next night I would continue. I think I read it to them a couple of times. For me, so this is by Patricia Lauber. Patricia Lauber. I don't think she's still around. This book was written in 1955. There's a very low chance she's around. But anyway, Clarence the TV dog. It's a mama's boy. I can hear him in the distance. He's going back home, get a kiss on the cheek from his mom. So, I was in the 4th grade. We had a teacher. His name was Mr. Carroll. And it was my first time, and I think my only time. Maybe there's been a couple other people, but I think it's very rare that everybody in the class liked this teacher. Usually you get some kids, they like the teacher, some kids are like, I don't like this teacher at all. But everybody liked this teacher. There was not one kid that said anything bad about him. And he would read us this book. He would read us this book. Every day there was like 15 minutes of class left, and he would pull out the book and he would sit on the chair in the front there and he would read this, and I was like pulled in. I loved this book and I loved listening to him read. Very relaxing. Anyway, time went by like it usually does, and one day he came in. This was about December, and he said, I have an announcement to make. It's a little bit sad, he goes, but it's gonna be okay. He said, I'm leaving, and there's going to be a very nice teacher coming to replace me. And everybody was like, no, Mr. Carroll, right? Anyway, everybody was sad. Everybody was sad. It was so emotional that I remember it as if it happened today. That's how clear it is to me. So anyway, he finished the book, and then I've said this story before, I believe, but it's one life I have, and there's some things are repeats, but I got dropped off. We had a field trip the next day, right? So they said, we're gonna go to the skating rink. I had no idea how to skate. And I said to my father, I went home, I said to my father, hey, I gotta go and get skates. Gotta take me to the store. So I remember I was all in a panic. We got there, the store, it was open still. And I found these CCM skates. I had no idea what that was, but they were in the middle of a box thing. That it was full of skates in boxes. I don't know, probably LAPD. I don't know what they're doing up this late. They probably fly by just to see if I'm making a video. I'm making a video. You see the light on. Anyway, so we went there and we got these nice skates. I went home, put them on. They felt rigid, So the next day I got a ride to school. Nobody told me, don't go to school. You got to go straight to the skating rink. So I show up there and it's empty. The entire school is at the skating rink. So I was like, all right. So I went to my class. I go inside and there's Mr. Carroll. I don't know what his first name was. And he's with a woman. And he says, "Oh, Nick." Well, he turns to the teacher who became my teacher, Mrs. McCarthy, and he says to her, "Oh, let me be the first to introduce you to the first student you're going to meet of this class," said Nick. And then she shook my hand, had a bony hand, and then I said bye to him, and I never saw him again. He didn't come to the skating rink, so she came to the skating rink, and I was surprised how many people knew how to skate. I was not one of them. All the teachers from that school knew how to skate. I don't know if there was a thing in the old days that you had to learn how to skate like you had to learn how to ride a bike. But every teacher knew how to skate, and very good too. It wasn't like they were falling down or looking stupid like I was. They were skating as if they were playing professional hockey, like that good. So anyway, that's what happened with that. And then, you know, I always remember him when I see this book, Clarence the TV dog. Now, he may still be alive. That was a long time ago. If he is alive, I would say that I think back then he was anywhere from 37 to 40 years old. So who knows? But I want to run into him and say, hey, you know, that book you read to us back in the 4th grade, I read it to my kids, and I remember you because of this book. I think every kid in that class probably remembers him because he was such a nice guy. And I think you learn a lot more from teachers that are kind-hearted, teachers that have a nice, mild-mannered personality, like Clark Kent. I think you learn more from them than the ones that are aggressive, that yell a lot, that are strict. I never appreciated the strict teachers, because you know what happens? They abuse their power as a teacher, and they go overboard at some point. For all of them, they all do that. But anyway, that was that. Good book too. Got to get to the end. That's where the action is. So, and my kids still remember me reading it to them. Yeah, those days are gone. It saddens me, but those days are gone. I remember thinking, you know, when those days were happening, I was thinking, you know, one day these days are not going to be around anymore, and I'm going to have to deal with it. And, you know, that's life. You get older, you have kids, then they get older, and the process begins again and again. That's it. So anyway, I remember when I was a kid, there was a show, everybody knows, Sesame Street. And I think it was on Sesame Street, but it may have been on the electric company. But there was a section of that show where they would show one of these tires from the junkyard. So there was this crane, magnetic crane, whatever, it would pick up all the junk. The way I remember it may be slightly different. You got to remember, it's been a long time since I've seen this portion of Sesame Street. But picks up the things, and this thing falls off, and it starts rolling. The tire starts rolling through the city. I'm thinking it's New York, and the camera's following it around. It's going from neighborhood to neighborhood. Everybody's looking at it, getting out of the way, and it keeps going and going and going, right? So at some point towards the end of the video clip, or the film clip in those days, the wheel stops, and it stops at a convenient location. It stops near, it's like a big, I don't know if it's like a plywood thing, but it has 3 wheels, one's missing. And the dude notices this thing and grabs it and puts it on, and then he continues on with his cart. So, you know, I still remember that, and it was such a good memory. Yeah, I think the more you have, the better it gets. I don't know. The good stuff is on the bottom though, but there is a slight bitter aftertaste, very slight, very slight. But it's a thick. It's not like water thin. This is like, you know, because of the sugar, it's a little bit syrupy, a little bit. But pleasant. You never know who makes an impression on you. You know, I'm not a fan of mean teachers. I've said it, a few minutes ago, but I am just not a fan of them. Most of it has to do with ego. How dare you talk in my class while I'm speaking? I know you're disrupting them, but then they go overboard with the punishment. They have to show they're a tough guy. You want to tell them, when you're a kid, one day I'm going to turn 30 and I'm going to find you and kick your ass. So be nice. But yeah, there are teachers that are very nice. I had a few. They made an impression on me more so than the tough guy teachers. I had a teacher, he was a Vietnam veteran, and he was always concerned. If he saw you not, being alert, kind of like a little bit depressed, he would approach you and ask you, hey, everything okay? Something wrong? You need help with anything? I could help you. And it was genuine concern. It wasn't that fake stuff, And then you contrast that with somebody else who was a mean teacher that would make you do things like go on the football field and collect the bottle caps. That kind of teacher, yeah, those never impressed me. The nice ones, though, the memory lasts a lifetime from them. And I don't have enough good words to say about them. So, yeah. My daughter's bike over there, it's had a flat now for a very, very long time. And today I decided to, start the process to fix it. So I took it all apart, took the back tire off, removed the chain over there, and I took the inner tube out, and I saw that there was a hole, and I have the glue and the patches, but I'm not doing that. I ordered a brand new inner tube. Why? Because I learned a lesson when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I had the patches and the cement glue and all that, so I would get a hole in the tube, and it would happen quite often. And then I'd go in the basement, and I'd fix it. But it never held. It would last for like maybe 3-4 days, then it would start leaking slowly again. And I had a friend who was a World War II veteran. And if you ever watch the show Leave It to Beaver, you will notice that there is a character that shows up once in a while, and his name is Gus the Fireman. Well, I had a Gus the Fireman in my life as a kid, except his name was Eddie. And he's a lot older than me. I'm saying World War II, so you can imagine he was a lot older. And I would go over there for, advice, kill time, do my homework. If I had something I needed him to investigate, I would go down there and talk to him, and he would go and investigate. One time I got hooked on Leave It to Beaver, the show, and I wanted to learn a lot about it. I wanted to know how many episodes there were, what year it started, background information. So I sent him off on a research project. I said to him, can you go call places up and find out about Leave It to Beaver? And he did. He called up the channel that Leave It to Beaver was on, and I don't know who he got there, but they gave him tons of information. He was taking notes, shorthand, because at one point in his life he was like a secretary. So that day he calls me up, and he used to call me Nicky Boy. It's like, Nicky Boy, come over, I got some information for you. I went over, and he had notes, all in shorthand, and he was telling me what he found out, and I was all fascinated. I was like sitting there listening. So he was my Gus the Fireman from Leave It to Beaver. Similar. So one day I got a flat tire, and I said to myself, this guy's old, he's been around, he probably knows how to fix flats that actually, get fixed and last years. So I went over there and I called him and I said, hey, I have a flat tire, can you help me fix it? And he goes, sure, Nicky Boy. So brought him to my basement, and I said, oh, this is not a good sign. He was reading the directions. I go, not a good sign. He doesn't know how to do it. So he's reading the directions, and I noticed that his technique was awful. Just was not, it was worse than mine, and I was only a 9-year-old. So he tried a few times, and it was just like as awkward as you can get. It was just very horrible. So I said to him, don't worry about it. And then I learned a lesson. I said, do not fix it with patches. Get a new inner tube. Back then it was like $3 for a brand new inner tube. I go spend the $3, less hassle, less headaches. That's what I did. So right now, my daughter has a flat. I filled up the inner tube and I put it under water, and I saw where the leak was. But I said I'm not gonna patch it. I'm just gonna go to Amazon and I'm gonna get a brand new inner tube. And that's what I did. You know, I put it in there. It's a better guarantee. You don't have to worry about any slow leak later on in the week. So hopefully tomorrow or the next day we can go bike riding. And I was a big time bike rider. You know, I was always on a bike, And then there were times when my bike was in the repair shop because of all the jumps I would do. I was always jumping my bike, landing on the back tire, and the back tire was always wobbling, so I would always have to go down and get repairs done to it. So because I was so used to riding a bike, when the bike was in the shop and I was walking, because then I would just walk places, I almost felt like I was on the bike. I had that sensation like I was, you know, riding a bike when I was actually walking. And then one time my spokes really bent out of shape, and I brought it down to the guy. Asked my father, I said, can I go down and bring it to the guy, fix my bike? And he said, bring it. So I went down there, told the guy what the problem was, and he said, yeah, all right, I can fix it. Come back in a week. I went back with my father the week later, and I loved that place. It had mini bikes and go-karts in there, and this guy would fix everything. He kind of looked like a leprechaun, but he had a beard and everything, little man, you know, walking around. So I went to pick up my bike, and as my father was getting ready to pay, it was cash in those days, no credit card. I mean, we had them, but we didn't use them as often as now. So he's getting ready to pay, and I noticed the guy had a display, the owner, and they had a stick shift thing for a 5-speed bike, which my bike was. I had an Apollo Ross, a Ross Apollo 5-speed. That's what I had. It was like a chopper. And I saw that, and I go, I gotta have that. I gotta have that shifter. You know, I don't want to have the, you know, it looked like a knife you would flip up and down. It would change gears. I said, I gotta get a good shifter. But I knew the odds were like extremely low that my father would say yes to that. He's gonna be like, I'm already paying for repairs here. And my father liked to use the whole thing like every 2 weeks I'm in here. He was not in there every 2 weeks, but he would always say that. It's like every 2 weeks I'm here getting this bike repaired. So I said, you know what, I'm going to ask him, see what he says. But I knew there was like a 99.4 chance that he was going to say no. So I turn over, I go, can I get that? And he says, what is that? And I said, it's a shifter. And without hesitation, he said to me, get it. So I told the guy, I'm going to get that. And I was bracing myself inside because I thought he was going to say to me, come next week. I go, when's that going to be ready? And he goes, I'll do it for you right now. Right now, he goes, I'll put it there. So he got out his tools, and within, I don't know, like 3-4 minutes, he had that shifter on there. And I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. So my father, you know, he wanted to put the bike on top of the station wagon. I said, no, I'm riding this thing home. So he goes, all right. So I got on it, and I went home, and I'm shifting first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And I thought it was awesome. I treated my bike like every kid back then. They treated it like a car, and that's how I had it. I had it like it was my vehicle, my motor car. You know, I remember after a long day of playing, and I would be heading home, I would be driving that like I was like coming back from some mission, exhausted. You know, I was avoiding the bumps, and I would always fantasize like there was a second person that I was bringing home from a long journey from somewhere. You know, like we ended up coming from like some foreign destination, exhausted, and now we were heading home. And I'm you know, trying to get home by avoiding the bumps because the person behind me is sleeping. And then at some point I came up with this idea that, you know, because the Apollo Ross bikes, the 5-speed bikes. They had it like a banana seat almost. It was a long chopper seat. Easy, you can put 2 people, you and 1 more. And I was thinking, how can I add a 3rd person? One day I'm walking by a welder's shop, and they're welding, you know, metal and all that together. And I said, you know what, I got an idea. What about if they weld a U-shaped metal piece onto the frame of my bike in the back? And then somebody could sit on that, and then it could have me, person behind me on the seat, and then another person on that, you know, that thing that they're gonna weld onto my bike. And I dreamed about that constantly until I started thinking about it logically. I said, if I add another person in the back, like after the back tire, it'll just make my front tire go up, and I won't be able to ride them. So I never did that. And then eventually I retired the bike, and I ended up getting a 15-speed Huffy. I thought because it was 15 speed, I thought it was going to be a fast bike, but it never grew on me. I took it everywhere, but it just was not part of me like the Apollo was. So I've had many good memories on that bike. You know, sometimes I think about buying a replica of it, you know, going on eBay, because they have them there. I checked, and they actually have them there. And buying it and having it sent here, and then riding it and see if I have the same, well, I'm not going to have the same, but if I have somewhat the ability to ride it the way I used to, like the same flexibility, or close, you know. I just want to see what it would feel like now if I rode it, because back then it felt like an extension of me. It was very comfortable. I could maneuver it, you know, I could jump with it, I could bunny hops, everything. Now I feel if I get on it, it'll feel like I'm on the, it would feel to me like I'm riding on the edge of a cliff or something. That's what it would feel like. So, but I always think about it. I always say, you know, I should buy that just to see, you know, what that bike feels like now at my age riding it. I can tell you what it's going to feel like wobbly. So that's it. So we had a little bit of this wine type product, product of Italy, Savoia, and it's American Rosso. It says it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Nice bottle too. $24.99. I don't know if you can see any of that, man. It's good. It's refreshing. Slightly bitter aftertaste, which is not a problem. Just letting you know. So anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.